Okay, well, you people, when you see a big boat go by and you hear a lot of guys playing, well, I tell them to come in and play, man. Okay, now this will be the third presidential poll we have taken for this election. Now, let me tell you how this works. We've done this the last 3 elections, and it's been fairly accurate. It's certainly not scientific. It's only going to be by applause. Now, let me point out what I'm going to do, because we only want you to applaud for the presidential candidate that you would actually vote for. Don't boo or make any sounds, because it's just based on actually an applause meter. And this is based on the fact that if the election were held tomorrow, I'm going to ask you whom you would vote for. Who you would vote for or whom?
Whom?
For whom?
You would vote.
Who would you vote for, right? For whom? Let me put it this way. The person tomorrow,
Which candidate?
which candidate will you vote for?
Yeah.
If the election were held tomorrow. Now, I think last time I did Mr. Bush's name first, so I'll do Mr. Dukakis. Just applaud for that person you would vote for. Those who are not going to vote for it, don't applaud at all. All right? First one, how many tomorrow would vote for President of the United States, Michael Dukakis? Make your shout. Okay. Don't shout or anything like that. Now, how many would vote for George Bush? Interesting. Okay. So I say that has no scientific value outside of the fact that, at least in this studio, of 500 people from pretty much representative from all over the country, Mr. Bush is ahead. Now, that's what happened when we did this for Reagan, you know? Ron called and says, how did I do in the applause? How many of you are visiting California on vacation? Thank you. How many of you got stuck on the freeways and just decided to stay here? If you have been driving around the state, you may have noticed a phenomenon that's not indigent to this state. Indigent or?
Indigenous.
Indigenous. I'm having trouble. What? For whom? I'm having trouble with my grammar, aren't I? And my grandpa, too. Okay.
Excuse me.
You may have noticed something that happens in this state. I think it happens in other states. It's called personalized license plates or vanity license plates. And it's not a bad idea because they raise money, which apparently goes into an environmental protection fund. It's $35. You write the motor vehicle department, and they'll issue you a plate with any combination of letters, I guess up to 7 letters. And you pay $35 for it. And some people, you know, like to personalize it, and some people have tried to get away with some very strange things on license plates, but I apparently found out what happened. I sent in for Mafia once.
Right.
I wanted to see if I can get a license plate that just said Mafia. I figured nobody would ever bother my car.
Right.
The computer that they have, apparently in Sacramento, kicked that out. You can't get that.
Yeah.
But occasionally you'll drive around and you'll see one in a foreign language that apparently sneaks by the computer.
Yeah.
And boom, there it is, like married or something.
Right. Yeah.
One car owner in 60 in California has a personalized license plate. We've got a copy of some of the actual plates, and let's see if you can tell or guess whose these are. These are not jokes. Who do you think this license plate belongs to? A-Team. That belongs to Mr. T. All right. This one? Willie Mays. Willie Mays. Ernest Borgnine. All right, let's see how you do on this one. No, it's not Mr. Magoo. No. Leslie Uggams. Uggams, yeah, it's spelled backwards. That belongs to a California dentist. Actually, does. I don't know how many dentists put in for that. Obviously, the first guy who puts in gets it, right? All right. Some guy said his ex-wife. No. That is tennis star Martina Navratilova. She's Czechoslovakian. She's now an American citizen. An ex-Czech. Very Is this audience sharp?
Yeah.
Please, please. Let's be careful on this one. That's an optometrist. You know who this belongs to? Now, is this a joke or is that for real? Sinatra? Is that for real? I guess it is. Let's see how many of you know who this is. Richard Simmons. This is my favorite. Yeah. Lawrence Welk. A one and a two and a... Judge Robert Bork. Now, these, I think, are just some we've kind of made up. Comedian Robin Williams. Miss Piggy. General Manuel Noriega. Alan Alda. Greg Louganis. The editors of the National Enquirer. New York Mets. All right, that's New York Mets pitcher Ron Darling. Dodgers pitcher Orel Hershiser. Freddy Krueger, somebody. This is the producer of the television series 30-something. We have here rhythm. Gotta have rhythm in these. Dom DeLuise. See how good you are. The head of NASA. You're right. See, they count down backwards. Nobody's going to get boxer Jerry Cooney. Or Michael Spinks, I guess. Lucille Ball. Mikhail Gorbachev. And Leonid Brezhnev. Oh, you're booing. Hey. You're booing. I mean, that's not Abe Lincoln we're talking about. Thursday, Bill Cosby, Thursday at 8. Bill Cosby in Central Time. Rhythm. Yoko Ono. Surgeon General C. Everett Koop. Geraldo Rivera. Mets pitcher Jay Howell. Circus owner P.T. Barnum. Lonnie Anderson. I can't do this. No, that's good. He's a friend of mine. I can't do that. Whoopi Goldberg. Gary Hart. Australia's Paul Hogan. Reverend Al Sharpton. Mel Tillis. Former President Gerald Ford. Elvis Presley. I knew that was going to get nothing. Anybody got this? Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Day 6. Sometimes you have to dramatize it. This belonged to the late John Wayne. It actually did. Governor Michael Dukakis. Olympic gold medal winner Matt Biondi. Member of our Olympic water polo team, Jessica Hahn. Jerry Falwell? Tammy Faye Baker? You see this one? Ben Johnson. And this belongs, obviously, to the owner, I don't know if you can see this, of a VCR. Forever blinking 12 o'clock midnight. Big finish. Big electrical finish. Finish with a Tammy Faye and get out. Finish with... Gone. Finish. Finish with Tammy Faye and get out. Oh, had to do a big prop, electrical thing. You never learn, do you?
No.
We'll be back with Miss Sandy Duncan right after this.
They feel pressured to be things they're not, like interesting. You know?
Provocative.
Or provocative and all those things. So you layer on all that stuff and you try and be things that you're not, because basically people are kind of boring.
Yeah.
I mean, aren't you?
In my what?
In your normal day in, day out life. You don't lead a life of anecdotes, do you?
No.
No.
I'm just a man from the earth.
Do you ever think of me? I mean...
Give me a piece of bottom land and a few chickens and a picket fence, and that's all I want out of life.
Do you get all these suits that you wear, or...
What do you mind
I mean,
get
do
them?
they give them to you?
No.
You give them back?
Give them back
after
to
you
who?
wear them?
I don't give them, no.
These are your clothes that you wear every night?
NBC does not give me my clothes, yeah. Should they? You think they should?
No, I just...
Well, that's a good thing for the next negotiation.
Yeah.
I want clothes. Yeah.
Because, I mean, you always have something different. You look snappy every night. I just
Well,
think your
thank you very
closet
much.
must be very full. But see, I think of you. Now, do you think of me in the last 8 years? Like, did something cross your mind? Like, wonder if Sandy... No.
Yeah, well, they say when you dream, the people in your dream are not always the people.
Am I in your dreams?
Okay, yeah, well, you have been once.
Really?
And you were flying.
Oh. You're making it up.
Well, yes, I am, but I tried.
No, but...
Sometimes you have to lie when you do this job. It's the only way to get ahead. Sometimes you just lie.
But like De Niro, do you think maybe he thinks of us now and then, or somebody, or Meryl? I mean, I do think of people like they're public, and I go, I think when I see you, I go, God, what if he keeps his suits?
Well, you don't really have been thinking of me since we haven't seen
Yes,
each other.
every now and then I go, wonder how he is, wonder how his,
Oh,
his
come
life is.
on.
I swear to God. Well, you're not very sensitive or something. What is this? You must think of me now and then.
No,
Never.
Damn it, I don't. I could lie.
Yeah.
See, I lied because I felt, bad about not thinking of you, so I made up and said I thought of you in my dreams, and that was a lie.
Maybe now you will.
I thought it could be. What is it, Fred? Are you posing for an oil painting or something? Better standing here like this. I guess we have to do a commercial. We're going to come back and we're going to sort this out and find out what's going on here. Somebody told me you recently went back home. It's Texas, right? Mm-hmm. To receive an award from your... Is this from your hometown or what?
I don't think so. Tyler? No.
Not Tyler, Texas.
The award was in Dallas. It was
Yeah.
a communications award. And I was the first woman to receive it. It was a really... I didn't expect to be as touched as I don't know if you... Have you ever been brought... I'm sure you have. Honored by your hometown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real... And a lot of friends...
Matter of fact, I'm going to be
seen.
in my hometown, believe it or not, on Sunday.
Oh, you're having it?
No, I'm just going back to my hometown in
I
Norfolk,
see.
Nebraska.
Just to
for
visit.
Sunday. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing when you see people from high school, and they flew people in from New York, and Tommy Tune gave me the award. It was, and I cried. I got up to talk, and I really found myself...
You're emotional.
I was very emotional. I was talking about my dad, running the gas station, paying for my lessons all those years, and my mom making the... I'm going to do it again. It's very touching,
Do your folks keep all the memorabilia of you as a child? Collect
I don't
things?
think it's not been touched. It's
You're
like my
kidding.
drawers still have bobby pins in them
Oh,
that I
come
left
on.
there. I don't even... Yeah, no, everything is just kind of the way it was. My diary. It's like,
Did you keep a diary?
Mm-hmm. For 1
You
year.
still have it?
Yes, I do. Did you keep... No, boys don't do that.
Boys don't keep diaries, do they?
No. Not usually, I guess.
No.
Maybe do. Yeah, but no, my room is very much the same. It just looks like suspended animation, sort of.
Yeah. My folks didn't do that. They rented out my room. I went to college, and I came back, and my room was rented out. It was very... God, where does the time go? We'll be right back. Steve is a very funny young actor, comedian, and he's been on the show before. He'll be appearing at the Improvisation in Chicago, the 19th of December through the 24th, and at Club 1407 in New York City, the 1st of December through the 3rd. Would you welcome, please, Steve Middleman. Steve?
Thank you very much. How are you? Thank you. I've never looked this good before in my life. Actually, I don't even look this good now. It's nice to be here. I was just back east. I'm from New York originally. Go Mets. I went to some kind of reunion, old neighborhood reunion. Everybody there, I realized, called me Middleman by my last name. And then I realized my whole life, people call me Middleman. Even my parents call me Middleman. Dinner, Middleman. I was like a puppy, you know. I noticed there are last name guys and first name guys. Last name guys, Bob, Ted, Al. And there's last name guys like Manson, Gaddafi. Picasso's a last name guy, right? He's probably picked last in sports like I was. Yeah, I'll take Picasso. I always get stuck with Picasso. Picasso, you don't have to play, just sketch the game, okay? And don't put both my eyes on the same side of my head again. So, you know, when I was born, my father went to the maternity ward. He asked the nurse, which one's my son? She said, oh, you mean Middleman? And there I was wearing this suit. I was a hit baby. I'm from a middle-class Jewish family. I went to Hebrew school, a very strict Hebrew school. We had nuns. Our Lady of the Finkelsteins. For confession, we'd say 5 Hail Sylvias. You know what makes kosher meats kosher? They make the animals feel so guilty, they die. Cows go, shoot me already. Like most Jewish men, my main goal is to be mistaken for Italian. Sinatra and I are like this. We're mistaken all the time. People come over to Frank and say, Middleman? Last week, a lady came over to me. She said, you're Frank Sinatra. I said, lady, please. I said, live and breathe, Frank Sinatra. Thank you, but I'm not Sinatra. My whole life, Frank, I wanted to meet you, rip off your shirt, caress your chest, pull down your pants, bite on your thighs. I said, Scooby-Dooby-Doo. She said, Middleman? My brother-in-law's Italian. He's got one of those great Italian names with all the vowels. His name's Vinny A-E-I-O-U-O. The tough guy owns a funeral home. He knows who's coming in a week in advance. I told him I was going to be on the show. He said, break a leg in 3 places. He's a macho guy. He did one of those macho things. He shaved his head. Looked great. I did it. I looked like a giant thumb. Cars would stop. They thought I was hitching. I went across country. I didn't even want to go. Jewish people, I notice, sometimes have names with no vowels whatsoever. Sometimes you hear Jewish names like... My mother goes, you know the hookers? No, Mom, we never met. Mrs. used to babysit you. No, huh? Oh, don't you know, they used to live next door to the family. How do you spell that? C-H-C-H-C-H? Yeah, how'd you guess? That's not your personalized license plate. Why don't you buy a Val already? You said. Go on Wheel of Fortune, Vanna, give him some Vals. So, you know what I did recently? I went to this Italian wedding. It was so gorgeous. I was so moved by the artwork and the stained glass windows, I went into confession. And I said, forgive me, Father, for I sinned. Actually, I haven't been to confession in 30 years. In fact, to tell you the truth, I'm Jewish. He said, Middleman?
Good to see you, Irv.
So nice to see you. Middleman?
Middleman. How are things back in that great city?
Very
Chicago?
exciting. Chicago's always an exciting town.
I think one of the first big cities I ever went to, when I got in the service, I went to Chicago. And you never forget it.
Chicago was the warmest city during World War II for servicemen.
Yeah.
Everything was free.
Yeah.
Mayor Kelly, the late Mayor Kelly, was responsible for that.
I remember that very well. You've been based out of there how many years now?
Since I was born. I've lived there all my life. But I've been writing the column for 45 years.
And the TV show for how long?
I did that for 27 years before my doctor said I better quit.
Yeah.
And you were among my
I was trying to remember the year.
outstanding guests.
I don't know that I was very outstanding, but I remember I was on with my dear friend, late friend, Buddy Rich, and Phyllis McGuire, and I think there was an actress on. I don't recall her name. What the hell did we talk about? Do you remember every show?
I remember very well. First of all, let me compliment you, Johnny, because you were so hip on what was going on around the world. You weren't in show business, but you were very aware of the big issues.
Yeah.
And you talked about it, which you don't do very often because that's not your speed here.
Right.
But our good friend Buddy and our good friend Phyllis got into a heated debate over Frank Sinatra.
They had some kind of brouhaha.
And you and I just sat back and listened very encouraging and very attentively.
Phyllis was not very flattering, and Buddy sat back and told about a wonderful guy, and it got to be a little sticky.
Yes, it was.
What's the stickiest moment you've ever had where it's gotten so uncomfortable, or has it ever happened where somebody just says, enough of this? And I think in your book you detailed somebody who's just got up and left.
Oh, yeah, we've had a few people. Abby Hoffman was the last one to get up and leave, and we had a few authors who didn't like... I had an author on with the fellow who had written the review of the book.
Right.
And the review was very negative. And when the author came on and saw this fellow, he said, not for me, he left. One of the stickiest moments was having Imogene Coco on the show. In those days, the show ran about 3 hours, and Imogene sat there for 3 hours and never opened her mouth.
Is this when the show of shows was on?
Yeah. She says, I'd like to listen, I don't like to talk. And so she just sat there and listened to the conversation. Have you ever had guests like that?
Yeah, you try to count your questions so you can't get a yes or no answer. I noticed the sports guys during the when they were talking to ball players. I guess you really felt like you were going to be behind and you wouldn't pull out the game. And the guy says, yeah. What else he can, rather than saying, tell us how you feel. So she just sat there and...
Sat there for all 3 hours and just listened and didn't say a word. That's a little exasperating, John, as you know.
You've had a lot of political people on your show. We used to have more than we do now because I find political people not really... They're so protected and they want to produce such an image that sometimes they don't really... You don't get to the core of the person.
One exception, at least one, the late Hubert Humphrey. Hubert was the spirit of jovial politics. He talked all the time. One time I had him on the show, and he was brilliant, but he was very, very long. Came to the end of the close, and I said, Hubert, I have time for one more question, but I don't have time for one more answer.
I remember he was a guest a couple of times on this show, and you'd just say, how do you feel? And you just said
way
back,
to go.
Well, you pray sometimes for those kind of guests, don't you? To be,
sure.
Be self-starters?
Oh, I should say.
What other political figures you had on that you found fascinating or...
Well, I've had former President Harry Truman, former President Jerry Ford, John F. Kennedy, few people like that.
Yeah. I didn't know Truman, but I would have liked to have known him because he was the kind of a man, I think, that says what's on his mind.
Oh, no question.
He didn't have
Never.
a private persona. He would just...
He was a very, very dear friend, and before he left the White House, he called me and he says, Cup, I want you to bring your family down to the White House, and I'm going to give you a personal tour. So on a few days before Christmas, before he was about to leave the White House, Essie and I and our son Jerry and our daughter Cookie came to the White House, and he gave us a personal tour. And then Margaret joined, and she joined the tour.
Right.
I remember one incident when we came to the picture of President Jackson. Margaret said, that's the president's favorite president. Mr. Truman loved President Jackson. But she says, I don't, because look at his nose. He has a Truman nose, and I can't stand the Truman nose. Her own nose she was referring to.
That's funny.
I couldn't stand a large nose myself.
Have you ever had anybody come on who has really been bombed, drunk? We've had a number on the show, and I won't mention any names, but you ever had anybody comes on and you know that is really out of it, and they're trying to pretend they're not?
Yeah. We had a great actor. We used to serve liquor on the show in those days. And we had a great actor who was way to the right, and he hated the communists as nobody else did. And we had a Russian diplomat on the show. Not an ordinary communist, but a Russian diplomat.
Good booking.
Every time the Russian diplomat made a comment of any kind, this actor would take another drink. Finally, he was so loaded and so abusive to the guests, I said, you'll have to leave the show. We can't take this kind of conversation. So he got up and walked off. That was the most abusive I think we've had.
I guess I can mention one incident because it was kind of funny. When we first came to California, we made the mistake. We thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a little hospitality bar backstage? That lasted one night, and we had some champagne, and I can still remember the cell. Zsa Zsa Gabor was on the show, and we were on an hour and a half at that time. And Marlon Brando was the last guest. Well, Marlon came around, and the lights hit him, and he just stood there. He says, man, it's really bright here, isn't it? And he came over and sat down, and it was hysterically funny. And he turned and he started to attack Zsa Zsa, and it was a great show. But most people
who wouldn't like to attack Java. Who wouldn't?
You've covered...
How did Ed McMahon survive that period?
Oh, Ed is... no, Ed never drinks before the show. During, but not before the show. You've covered most of the Academy Awards, I guess, since they started.
Since 1945, I've been covering the Academy Awards. I think I've covered more than any outside newspaper man.
Any memorable moments? Or?
I think the most exciting one, Johnny, was way back when Judy Garland was named for Star is Born, and the great Grace Kelly was named for Country Girl.
That's one she did.
That divided all Hollywood because Grace had the following of the Bing Crosby, Bob Hope segment. And Judy, of course, had Frank and all the Rat Pack gang on her side. And all Hollywood was divided, and it really was a bitter contest. Of course, Grace won, but I think Judy was the real winner because she had a baby about the same time as the awards were going on.
Yeah. Are you continuing a column? Are you getting to the point where you're still active in it?
I'm still active, 6 columns a week. One of the few guys writing 6 a week. Crazy enough to do that.
What do you do when you get up in the morning and you can't think of anything to put on the paper? Now, that has to happen sometimes where you just can't grind it out.
Johnny, you gather so much material when you've been in the business this long that you never are at a loss for material.
Yeah.
You may be at a loss for good material, but you always have plenty.
Do you have people around town like tipsters and so forth? I imagine you'd have to if you cover a city like Chicago. Whether we'll call you and say, hey, so-and-so is here, or feed you some information?
Absolutely. You have dozens of them call. They're only too glad to. Yeah, everybody likes to gossip, you know, Johnny. And people are glad to call. But you have to be careful.
Yeah. You ever been sued?
I've been sued 4 or 5 times, yes.
And how'd it turn out?
I've never lost a suit yet. But I'm still going. I'm still trying, John.
It's a remarkable record. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. I thank you for being here.
Thank you, Johnny.
And keep writing and stay with it and give our best to the city of Chicago. And give our best to the city of Tyler, Texas.
Okay, you think of me now and then.
I will think of you tonight, I promise. Program you in my dreams. Some of our people next week are going to be Whoopi Goldberg, Michael Caine, Edie Gourmet, Lee Ritenour, Kevin Pollak. And we have kind of an unusual thing. We have Rusty Swigert, who's one of the American astronauts, and one of the cosmonauts from the Soviet Union, Alexander Alexandrov, who I understand does speak English. Beg your pardon? Wow. So anyway, have a nice weekend. We'll see you then.
Next, Ron Howard and...